Be hearing from the youth arm of the People's Action Movement. There's also a representative from the National Women's Group, and there is the deputy chair of the People's Action Movement. If you don't know him by name, by now. If you don't know the person by name, by now, let me remind you that that person is Azad Gomes. And so we are going to be holding the fort, literally. We are hoping that over the course of the next hour and 40 minutes, next hour and 40 minutes, we may possibly hear from some of the candidates, ones that would have been nominated. The plan is that they would phone in, how things went this morning with that process. But nonetheless, there is a show, and we are going to get it started. As I said, I have the National Women's Group President, Jackie Howell. I have, remember her name again? Malaika Howell. She is the youth representative and one who is very active as well. I recently saw that she was inducted into Scanaipa. So I guess that means that, the young woman is ready for politics. And so we hope that you would be just as excited today to hear from them, just as you are when there are candidates. Because women's voice and the youth voice are still very important in nation building. And so welcome to the three of you. And we hope to have a good little discussion this morning here on the movement.
Thank you, Laverne. I do want to say a pleasant morning to those listening on WinFM. It is always a pleasure to be here at this studio. And it's also a pleasure to be here among fellow Pamites.
How about three beautiful women?
Three beautiful women as well.
I was looking for that first and foremost.
Of course.
I mean, come on.
Such beauty and talent here in the studio. I could be no other place.
Jackie?
Hi, good morning to all the WinFM listeners. This is Jacqueline Howell, President of the National Women's Group. And Laverne, thank you for having me here. With anything, this women are integral. So I'm thankful that you have given us the opportunity this morning.
Surely. And Malaika?
Hi, listeners and viewers. This is Malaika Howell, a representative from the youth arm of PAM. I'm very excited to be here, as this has been a hope of mine to be able to speak to the population from a political standpoint.
Good for you. Brave girl you are. I'm sure that you'll have a lot of people rooting for you when you must go back and listen to the broadcast afterwards. So yes, folks. So today is nominations day. And because the deputy chairman of the party, Azad Gomes, is also a lawyer, I want him to put into perspective, what does nomination day mean? So the young people like Malaika, perhaps, well, I believe Malaika knows what it is about.
Yes.
Because she seems to be entrenched in politics, and I like that. But I believe for maybe her contemporaries who are really not too keen, they may want to know, what is the importance of nominations day?
Well, the importance, as I think many persons would have an understanding by now, is that, of course, on election day, there are a number of persons who will be contesting the general elections. We have heard about the candidates throughout the campaigning period, but the nomination period is significant because you have to be nominated in order to contest the general elections. So these are going to be the official candidates from this point on. So if you're hearing someone is a candidate and they have not been nominated today, you know that their name will not be on the ballot when it comes to election day. So this is a very important process that is happening.
Mm-hmm. And what happens? So the candidate, the presumptive candidate, turns up at these prescribed locations, perhaps with a host of supporters. What happens thereafter?
Well, then they go through the rules and regulations, the returning officer of the various constituency, because we have 11 constituencies, 11 returning officers, and the returning officer within each constituency would conduct the proceedings. Then you have two persons who will nominate the candidate, and then you have the party supporters they are cheering on. I'm sure that there are going to be a number of persons this morning and this afternoon, because we realize that the process is from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. So it's going to be explosive. I'm looking forward to see the People's Action Movement candidates, supporters, and everyone on the ground supporting our candidates, the perfect candidates for this election.
Let's just qualify explosive, right? Explosive as in excitement and
Excitement.
and adrenaline and all of that, right? Okay. Just want to make sure.
As I came to the studio this morning, Laverne, I saw supporters from various parties. And they're already playing their music.
Mm-hmm.
I saw people from the People's Action Movement getting ready and buzzing. I see the pictures over by constituency number 2 already in circulation, where we have the Honorable Jonelle Powell,
Mm-hmm.
who will be there at 10 a.m. And so we have a number of candidates from the People's Action Movement that will be nominated at various times.
Okay, so that is why there's a building of excitement right now.
Yes, I always say that nomination day is the second most exciting day, that being election and nomination day.
Well, it's like, your I guess, your hopes are up now because, this is it.
Yes.
You can't turn back again.
You can't turn back.
Your name is on the ballot.
You can't say, may want to do this again.
Right.
You know?
There used to be a running joke about people won't get their
Yes.
back.
Yes.
Tell us about what is the deposit?
Deposit would be the monies that they will have to pay to register. And of course, if you have not gotten the number of votes, there's a specific number of votes that each candidate will need to have. And if you don't get that number of votes, then you don't have your deposit return. So of course, it's a joke that persons play on.
But it did happen to some people.
To say that you won't garner as much support as you think, as much votes as you think, so you're not going to get your deposit back. So if anyone says that to you as a candidate, it means that they're saying that you're not going to be successful in the election.
Right. So you don't know what it is. Is it a percentage of the constituents who are registered?
Yes,
Registered voters?
it would be, but I must say that I don't have the specific
The numbers?
information in front of me.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
and as a lawyer, I have to be very careful with what I say.
Yes,
But
I
I don't
agree.
have the data in front of me. I'm
I
not going
agree.
to assume.
I agree. But I know you have your phone beside you, so if there's somebody could probably send you a little thing in the background.
Yes.
We like to educate people who are listening to us.
No problem.
So Lady Jackie, no, we all know. You look at all of the meetings, you look at all of the campaign and the canvassing, and women are front and center.
Oh, yes.
What would happen to these political parties without women?
Oh, they would just
Implode, maybe?
implode. Because in all political parties, the women are the backbone. They are the ones, they are the workers, they are the support system. They do everything in the party. So without women, most, if not all, of the parties would just disappear.
Yeah.
It's amazing that in a lot of cases, I would not say Pam at all, but in a lot of cases the women are not properly recognized either for their impact on the politics.
Yeah.
And it's as I say, it's sometimes it's very disheartening.
But what does recognition look like for you? I mean, clearly, there's no discussion that women are the engine room of politics, and especially across the Caribbean. You simply have to look at a photo.
Oh yes.
And 90% of the people in the crowd are women.
Oh yes.
So what is this recognition that you think women ought to get from their involvement in politics?
Proper representation. For example, for us, for the current executive, we have 2 females on that. We have a fully functioning National Women's Group. We have, when the majority of the youth is female. So that does say a lot for us. We are no longer only in the background. We are also in the forefront. We are giving our input, and our input is being accepted and acknowledged and implemented in most cases.
Yes. Malaika.
Hi.
Again, thank you for coming. You are a brave heart. I would not be so brave when I was at your age, I was a little brave, but maybe for church things, like, to say a long recitation at church. But I really tip my hat to you, because truly, I think that young people are thinking that, let me just stay on the periphery of politics, see, and really, a lot of research nowadays seem to be saying that young people are disinterested in politics. You think that is true?
I'm not going to say politics on a whole, but when it comes to the nasty politics, it's
Y'all
a
don't
bit
like that.
much.
Yeah.
Especially here, it's a bit much and disheartening because you feel as though if you want to go into politics, that is how you would have to carry yourself. And that's not the
not
hopes.
good. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. So tell me, many years ago, long before you were born, a past PAM administration decided that they would reduce the voting age from 21 to 18. There you go. You're helping me with the statistic. Thank you so much. You're on top of your game. Now, you have friends who are 18.
I do.
And perhaps they're voting this year for the first time.
Right.
Do they actually know that Pam was the one who brought the age down from 21 to 18?
I mean, other than me telling them that, I wouldn't think so. It's not something that you would know without it being told to you. It's not a thing that's just out there that, Pam did this. It's just, okay, we vote at 18.
But do you think it's important for young people to know?
I think so because without that, a lot of people who would have turned 18 and able to vote in this election would not have been able to do so.
Just imagine that if that were not the case, the people who can vote this year at 18 would not be voting until 2025.
Right.
So it is something that is worth touting, is worth talking about, because your vote is really a powerful thing. And I tell people, you can't expect to change processes and change systems in government if you don't have a vote.
Right.
So the fact that the government of the day in the 1980s under PAM administration, PAM and NRP administration, they were able to say, look, our young people are mature enough so that we could reduce this age from 21 to 18. And surely that gave a lot of empowerment to young people then to exercise their franchise. So you think that was a good thing?
I do, definitely.
Good. No, I'm gonna stay on you for a little bit longer, and we're gonna talk about the school meals program, because that too was a legacy, or has been a legacy of PAM. Whenever the history of St. Kitts and Nevis is written, or as it is continued to be written, one would understand that in those days, when things were a lot rougher than now, if you ask me, and perhaps there were perhaps signs of need and perhaps even poverty, and the government of the day decided, look, people cannot go to school and learn on a hungry belly.
Right.
And so the school meals program was introduced. Is that something that you hear your friends talk about, the school meal? I have, let me tell you before you answer, I have nieces and nephews, and sometimes going up, they'll say, oh, on a soup, they'll come and say, we want a soup today. Because, so... But I know that there are people, I've heard teachers say that there are children who look forward to the school meals luncheon, because that sometimes is the main meal all day. So do you think that was something that was worthy of introducing?
Okay, well, I have a mix of friend groups. So I do have friends that went to school using the school meals program. But I also have friends who felt like there was no need.
Okay.
Because
so they don't take it.
They had it like that.
Right.
So there were people who thought that it was not necessary, but me, who had friends who needed it, I saw the need for it because naturally.
And did they appreciate it?
Yes, they did. Always, and they would proudly boast and say they got food from the school meals program.
There you go.
But actually, Laverne, that is one of the things that Pam did to help a lot of mothers as well.
Yes.
Because they would, it was difficult for them to know that they could not provide for their kids. But at the same time, they knew that it allowed for them to have a proper meal. As you said, things were a lot different then. It was a lot harder then. So that was one less worry that a lot of these mothers had at that point. So it was it was a great burden lifted from these mothers.
Truly.
at that point in time.
So you are listening to the movement. If you are listening online, if you're listening to your radio on Win FM, this is the movement, a program organized by the People's Action Movement as a run-up to election. In fact, today is our 9th edition. It means that we have been here 9 weeks in a row. The whole idea of this program was to expose the candidates to a new platform. And, you know, interestingly, people have been saying that they enjoy this program. They enjoy listening to the candidates because they saw them in a more relaxed frame of mind. And so, you know, all of the vigor that is generated from the platform on the campaign trail, you know, went away, and they saw them as, I guess, as humans, as one person put it to me. So thank you very much if you have been following this. I know over time we have seen that there have been thousands of viewers who have actually listened to the program and viewed the program. And so we thank you very much for so doing. We're going to take a break now, and we're going to come back and have more information, more views on the movement.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participant or caller and do not reflect the views of WinFM 98.9. WinFM reserves the right to disconnect any caller who infringes the law or offends the right of any person. The station will also refuse to take any call from any person who, in WinFM's considered opinion, is likely to expose the station to liability for statements made on the air.
Talking negative about my party, 'cause I'm damn strong, we're damn strong. Go away with your trickery, your money and your bribery, 'cause I'm damn strong, we're damn strong. Ungratefulness is worse than witchcraft. Come election day and see who get the last laugh. When the party's stalwart, show you the real palm from we have. Trying to honor his promise, 'cause I'm damn strong, we're damn strong.
Back everyone, we are here today on Win FM. This is the movement, as I said earlier, program that was started by the People's Action Movement as a forum from which the electorate can get additional information about the party's plans and programs for the general elections that we now know are going to be held on August 5th. Now, I was talking earlier with Azad Gomes, the Deputy Chair of the People's Action Movement, and I asked him to get the information as to the number of votes required per candidate if they're to get the deposit back. And I think he now has that information. He has his researchers in the background, y'all. So he was able to get that information to share.
In fact, I have the acts on my phone. So I do a quick search. So based on the National Assembly's Act, if you look at Section 60, which speaks to deposit, and subsection 1, it says that the candidate for the election or someone on his or her behalf shall deposit with the returning officer on or before the day of his or her nomination the sum of $150, and if he or she fails to do so, the nomination of such candidate shall be deemed to be withdrawn. So you must submit that $150. And the question was what we talked about. Sometimes people tease and say that you're not even going to get back your deposit. And so Section 61 speaks about when deposit forfeited or returned. And if you look at subsection 1 of the legislation, it says that if a candidate who has made such deposit is not elected, and the number of votes polled by him or her does not exceed 1/8 of the total number of votes polled, the amount deposited shall be forfeited to the Crown. In any other case, the deposit shall be returned by the Accountant General as soon as practicable after the result of the election is declared to the candidate, his or her legal personal representative, or the person by whom the deposit was made, as may be the case. So
1/8.
1/8.
That is the magic number.
Yes, 1/8. So anyone who's contesting the general election, you have to get over 1/8 to get your deposit back. Of course, we know that the People's Action Movement in every constituency would receive more than 1/8 of the votes.
Right.
And so we are confident in our candidates. In fact, we know and we are sure that all of our candidates can get over 50% of the votes because they are capable persons within the various field. And we know that the PAM candidates, as the song has said, they are PAM strong.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Chairman. Thank you for bringing to our attention that information with respect to the law. And now going to the President of the National Women's Group, Jackie. Now, there was a time when women were so badly discriminated in previous administrations before PAM came into office in 1980. Mm-hmm. To the extent that, the Bible said to be fruitful and multiply. And when they heeded the word of the Lord and they were unmarried, they would have lost their jobs. Now, I want, people talk of this thing very lightly, but I want us to think of the number of women today, if that weren't changed, who probably would have lost their jobs in the civil service.
Oh yes, that was a pivotal moment for women. The PAM government instituted that even if you were unwed and you were pregnant, you really could not be discriminated. You were allowed to return to work in the civil service because that was one thing that deterred women once they were unmarried from having kids.
Yeah.
Because they were afraid that when they had kids, they would not have a job, and then how would they provide for their children?
I think that was cruel.
Well, not only that, in 1983, government also implemented the Status of Children Act, which allowed for children of unwed parents to have both names on their birth certificate. This allowed for persons who were not married, and if the father, passed away, mm-hmm. they were able to benefit from the estate. Mm-hmm. That too was instrumental, because even now we have a lot of professional women and women on a whole mm-hmm. that have decided they wanted to have kids, but marriage was not, was not in the plan as yet. And I, for example, I have two. And, if that were the case, it would be disheartening for them, because they would not be able to say, this is my father. Yeah. And also it has caused a lot of headache for adults at this point, because we've seen persons who would have been carrying their father's title, and then they have to travel, and they get, they want to advance. They have to then go back to their mother's title mm-hmm. because their father's name is not on their birth certificate, mm-hmm. and it's just one mess. Yeah. And I'm very glad that the former PAM administration was able to see how important these.
When you talk to women, when you talk to your contemporaries, do you get the feeling that people understand the depth of such an issue, and they understand that in those dark days, women really were at a low rung on the ladder?
No, I think we've taken it for granted. We've taken it for granted. Another thing that we had that was implemented by our previous PAM government is 13 weeks maternity leave.
Right.
Now, I know 13 weeks is not even enough for me. And a lot of
They
women will
fly
tell you the same
by.
thing. Exactly. So can you imagine not having that and having to go back to work with when your child is so young?
Yeah.
You know, you can't focus on work, knowing that your child is at home or in a daycare, being taken care of by somebody else
Yes.
at such a young age. So, and it's paid maternity leave as well. So, it took an innovative
A caring.
party, a caring and
'Cause
innovative party.
those policies came from a position of care.
Yes.
Yes. And I must also emphasize that I think persons take it lightly, the effect of that legislation, because you must understand, and when we look at society now, there are many persons who are born out of wedlock, myself included. And so when it comes to taking your father's name, that is very important.
It's a
Because
big thing.
when you want to probate the estate,
Yep.
you have to present your birth certificate.
Oh,
Yes.
And if you don't have the legal documents to provide that you are linked with this individual, you can't claim the rights.
Yes.
So imagine a society where half of the children, perhaps, if not more, because I don't have the statistics on how many marriages,
Yeah.
those persons born in wedlock, would be deprived from things of their father. Everyone knows that's your
Yeah.
father, but you
Yeah.
can't legally
Right.
prove that.
So in effect, Mr. Gomes, you're saying that piece of legislation really lifted, gave hope.
I think so.
To people.
And I think it has paved the way for progressive St. and Nevis. And I feel that under People's Action Movement government, there will be other legislation that will pave the way for progressive St. and Nevis. When I look at the ideas that the party has presented, I am pleased to hear about the good governance agenda. I am pleased to hear about term limits. I am pleased to hear about a number of key legislation which might not have been implemented over the past 7 years because of problems that our PAM members would have had. But they have said no. They have said if it is that they went in 2015 on a good governance agenda, they realized that that could not have been accomplished under the circumstances that they had. So they left. And I think we have to respect those individuals because they gave up everything to fight for good governance, integrity within St. Kitts and Nevis.
I'm glad you made that point. Somebody made that point. Somebody mentioned it to me this morning as well. Say that they have tremendous respect for the political leader, because not a lot of people would have done that.
Exactly.
Not a lot of people would have walked away. And for Malika, I wanted to give me an example of maybe in a friendship where maybe a friend wasn't supporting you and you were always there for the friend. And then one day you said, no, I mean, if you really were a good friend, you would keep your promise to me, because so even in terms of friendship for a young person, how do you see how important it is for your friends to keep their promise when they talk to you?
Very important. From the time that you realize that you're giving 150% and you can't even get back 50, it's time to leave. Definitely.
Out of the mouth of babes and sucklings.
Yes.
You hear that? And I want that to resonate with the young people, because we when we were in Sunday school, we were taught that your word is your bond.
Yes.
And you must honor your word. If you're not going to do it, tell people you're not going to do it.
Exactly.
And so here it is, you have somebody who was bold enough to say, no, my word is my bond.
Yes.
And I'm going to be true to my word, and people vex with him.
Yes, and you must give our political leader credit. He had the number of seats, the number of persons elected to have been the prime minister since 2015.
Right.
And in fact, he said no. In 2020, he had the opportunity when other members on his team would have said, listen, the opportunity is here. He said no. And so when persons think about that, I think they should be happy to know that the next prime minister of St. Kitts and Nevis is a man of his word, and his word is his bond. And I'm sure persons will be comforted by the fact that if they say something to the Prime Minister, the future Prime Minister, and he says yes or no, that he will be a man of his word.
He's actually set the bar very high.
Very high.
Very.
Very high.
And I think it's something that we seem to be glossing over. But we need to understand now that, I mean, he has set the bar so high now that as the hopeful Prime Minister, people are going to expect him to keep every word that he says.
Yes. And I think that is what persons within St. Kitts and Nevis want. They want a politician that is honest, a politician that would tell you yes or no. Being on the campaign trail, as we call it, or canvassing, you hear many people complain about politicians and saying that they are going to do this and do that. Sometimes they just want a follow-up word where you say that, you know, this cannot be done, this can be done. Check me tomorrow and let me know and I will let you know if this can be done. So I think persons at the end of the day want someone, even though you can't accomplish everything that they want, could tell you yes or no.
Yes, yeah, and mean it.
Yes.
And mean it. I mean, if you're honest with people and you share your views honestly, people accept that rather than the, all of the I guess unreal promises.
Yes.
And then you'll find yourself in a place where you can't deliver them.
Exactly.
So I guess this is where keeping the promise comes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
We're going to take a break now because we've been really having animated conversation, and we hope that our listeners and our viewers are taking it all in. We're trying to take you back to the foundation days of PAM in government because, the idea is that so many things that were done then, so many policies, so many legislative changes that were important to who we have become today. And if those were not the platform, then, we would have been really still very stagnant and backward. And so we really have to go back to come forward because that was a powerful platform from which to build. We're going to take a short break now, and we're still thinking about whether or not we would open the lines to have callers. I would take my cue from the folks around the table because we don't want you to ask us and ask the members here, the presenters here, questions that are of a political nature that they can't necessarily deal with. So we're still contemplating whether we'll do that, but we hope you'll stay with us and be enlightened and be reminded from the conversation that we're having here this morning. This is The Movement on Win FM.
Expressed in this program are solely those of the participant or caller and do not reflect the views of WinFM 98.9. WinFM reserves the right to disconnect any caller who infringes the law or offends the right of any person. The station will also refuse to take any call from any person who, in WinFM's considered opinion, is likely to expose the station to liability for statements made on the air.
You can convince me talking negative about my party, but I'm damn strong. We're damn strong. Go away with your trickery, your money and your bribery, 'cause I'm damn strong. We're damn strong. Ungratefulness is worse than witchcraft. Come election day and see who get the last laugh. When the party's stalwart, show you the real palm from we heart. Voting PAM, voting PAM. Let's for the country then and now. Voting PAM, voting PAM. No way you can beat us, no how. Voting PAM, voting PAM. Don't care who join in the gang fight. We voting PAM, we voting PAM. Standing on the side of right. You vex with my leader for trying to honor his promise. 'Cause I'm damn strong. We're damn strong. It was foolish to take his kindness for weakness. 'Cause I'm damn strong. We're damn strong. But our leader has proven.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to The Movement on Win FM. This is a program that is sponsored by the People's Action Movement as a platform from which to share information about its candidates that are running in the general elections of St. Kitts and Nevis. Of course, these elections are due on August 5th. So we were talking earlier about nominations there and the process, and we wanted now to ask Azar to share the schedule of the PAM candidates who are being nominated today.
Yes, I must say, Laverne, that just yesterday, before that, the Commissioner of Police, in a meeting with the representatives from the various parties, would have asked us to submit the timing for those persons within each political party for their candidates. And of course, we had submissions, and based on the submissions, yesterday the commissioner had called, and he said that there were several clashes. And so yesterday was a time where we had to iron out those clashes, because we realized there are 3 political parties, not 2 like before. And so the schedule has been amended, and it has been approved, and based on the approved scheduling, the nomination schedule for the People's Action Movement is as follows. We have John L. Powell of constituency number 2, Matt Knight Community Center at 10 a.m. We have Lincoln David Pell of constituency 7, Tabernacle Police Station at 11 a.m. We have Chesley Hamilton of constituency number 8, St. Peter's Community Center, 11 a.m. We have Kervin Freeman, St. Johnson's Community Center, 12 p.m. We have at 1 p.m. here, I'm seeing Troy Flanders at 1 p.m. And I'm also seeing the Honorable Lindsey Grant, constituency 4, Troy Flanders constituency 6 is in Derby Police Station. Yes. I see Lindsey Grant, constituency 4, the Old Road Community Center, 2 p.m. I see Natasha Graybooks, constituency 1, the Police Training School, 2 p.m. And I see Sean Richards, constituency number 5, Sandy Point Community Center, 3:30 p.m.
So that is the People's Action Movement schedule for nomination day.
Our schedule for nomination day. And of course, we encourage persons, come out, support your candidate, those persons who are available to show your candidate the support. This is the time that is needed, to rival up the atmosphere.
There was a time when this used to be, well, many years ago, when I was young, you hardly knew that something happened on nomination day. But these days, there's a carnival-like atmosphere.
Oh, yes.
What do you think is the importance of this, though?
I think it's to energize the various political parties. I think it is to get people interested in voting, because sometimes you go and you realize there is some disinterest as it relates to voting. And you know that on election day, there are a number of persons registered to vote, and sometimes you don't even get more than 80%. Most of the times you don't get 80% of the persons.
We've not gotten 80% for many years.
Yeah. In fact, I think it's between 60 and 70% that you see voters come out. If you're having a high voters turnout, is usually 60 and 7.
Yeah.
I remember in the last election for, I think, Jamaica's turnout was very low. Even though the Jamaican Labour Party won, the voter turnout the percentage was very low. And so I think nomination day, when it comes to the making the noise and making it carnival-like atmosphere, helps to make people interested in the election process, because people have to understand this is a very important process. Elections are very important. We fought for the opportunity to elect a government that would serve its people. And so we must not forget that years ago, persons like us, St. Kitts and Nevis, unindependent St. Kitts and Nevis, and even before independence, many persons didn't have the opportunity to vote.
Or if you could vote if you had a house or some asset to show.
Yes. And
It
so
was
that was
almost
changed.
it was almost an opportunity of means.
Yeah.
If you didn't have the means, you didn't have a voice.
Exactly.
But I wonder sometimes if our young people understand how sacred this thing called voting is.
Exactly, and the persons who fought for it, you find that sometimes young people are asking, what can you give me? In fact, I remember somebody messaging me one time, a young person, and they said, well, the campaign has started, but I haven't seen you guys. What are you guys? I said, okay, we've been on the ground. We've been here. They said, well, I haven't seen any money being backed or shared. And I had to tell to the young individual, that's not what campaigning is about. Campaigning is not about politicians or candidates coming and giving you $150 to wear their shirt, giving you $500 to shop by a rally. It's not about that. It is about the advancement of St. Kitts and Nevis.
And which party is going to empower you? Because at the end of the day, that money is going to finish.
Exactly.
And then where are you at that point?
Right.
You know, it devalues your vote, basically.
It does. But it makes you wonder if those people are not truly interested in listening to the issues of all three parties. Because surely you would think that, you know, a rational person would want to weigh up, well, who has the better issues? Which party has the better ideas to advance St. Kitts and Nevis? From which of these ideas can I mean, and I would rather hear that question asked. From which of the ideas that are being advanced by these parties can I benefit as a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis?
Exactly.
As opposed to saying, well, why not for me?
Exactly.
I want $500, I got something, my fridge mash up or something.
Right.
I mean, if a politician can do that for you, fine. But I don't think that it ought to be an instrument to battle.
Exactly. I think, as you said, I think persons should look at the plans of the various parties and say, how can I develop myself based on the plans presented, the opportunities presented by the party? I think we need to understand that, because I often say to person, people take this election or elections generally lightly.
Yes.
Because generally speaking, within the Caribbean, we have not suffered dramatically as it relates to the finances. We have not seen like a total devastation of our resources where persons go to bed hungry. And so persons take for granted that if you elect an administration that cannot properly run the country, that could be the reality.
Yeah.
You understand? And so we must think about electing persons that would ensure the sustainability of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yes.
Would ensure that not only you, but your children, your grandchildren would be proud of a St. Kitts and Nevis. And I shudder to think of a St. Kitts and Nevis. We are lazy. We don't think that one should be promoted based on merit, but based on nepotism.
Or political association.
Or political association. I think that within political parties, our parties should present an open atmosphere where anybody, once you could be Labour, you could be PAM, you could be PLP, whatever party, once the opportunity is there for all persons to strive. And we must be careful that we do not erode the social fabric and order that we have fought to build. So just because you canvass for somebody, you bypass the regulations and the rules to appoint this person to positions where they are not qualified for, just to ensure that the individual can continue to canvass on your behalf. So we must think about St. Kitts and Nevis and the atmosphere that we want.
Yeah. The after effects
The
of
after
elections.
effects.
The after effects of elections. But you're saying that, and I think that in that context, perhaps the electorate does not realize that it has power after an election.
Right.
So that when we see these things, you probably somebody talks about it in muted tones, because of course, again, this all-wielding power of the government, this all-wielding power of maybe the prime minister, and I'm not saying whoever the prime minister is.
Whoever the prime minister
Because
is.
interestingly, a few years ago, I actually read a commentary or heard a commentary where somebody made the observation that Caribbean prime ministers actually have more power than the US president.
Yes.
Yes.
And if go unchecked and based on the individual in the seat, it could be very devastating.
And dangerous.
Yes. Because when you look at the position, the prime minister has the power to make several recommendations to the civil service when it comes to appointment. And so you have to be careful that you don't elect a dictator, someone who will use its power to invoke fear on its citizens. I shudder to think about a St. Kitts and Nevis where you cannot express your views without political victimization.
Yeah, I long for the day when we reach to a stage where that doesn't happen. But, I'm a praying person, so I would keep on praying. Now, beyond that, and I guess that is a significant part of where we are now. But we have to be hopeful and look beyond that. And as we reflect some more on some of the those hallmark policies and legislation that was done by the People's Action Movement in the 80s and early 90s. We look at the infrastructure and the superstructure in this country. We look at Port Zante. We look at the peninsula. And in as much as, all sorts of unkind comments were made when these things were being done, we understand now that even if they weren't done then and they were to be done now, think of the significance in the capital expenditure that would have had to be done to make these things happen.
And we have often boast about the CBI program, Laverne. And the CBI program was birthed from the People's Action Movement. In fact, under the Right Honorable Sir Kennedy Simmons. And so when I think about the People's Action Movement and my choice to be a member of the People's Action Movement, there was no other choice. Because one thing about PAM, it has such a rich history and it has accomplished much for St. Kitts and Nevis. The St. Kitts and Nevis that we see today has been so because of the fabric, the foundation that has been laid in the 1980s by a PAM NRP government.
Absolutely, you're right.
That was in collision at the time.
Right. So let me just to carry on from there. You often hear people say, "Oh, PAM is an elitist government. Them is rich people. Only rich people support PAM." And I don't think on the basis of that PAM would have been elected to government.
Yes.
Because I don't think that if you qualify rich, I don't think a lot of us would qualify to be supporters of the party. Right. And even now, I make the observation. If we were to stack up all 8 candidates on the two sides,
yes, we
have a fisherman,
yes,
we have a farmer, we have a contractor,
yes,
we have a former police officer, and I rather like that mix, because as a friend of mine said to me that what that is basically saying is that being a politician is not the domain of a lawyer or a doctor,
Right.
And I think we were trending very much towards that end in recent times. And
yes.
so, and even if we have to, skirt back a little bit after that, I think Mr. Spencer from Old Road,
yes,
he was a fisherman, and
right.
he was once a candidate for the People's Action Movement. And to me, that ought to be sufficient to dispel this notion, this elitist notion kind of thing about the People's Action Movement. So surely that diverse mix of candidates in the current general election is a strong story, is a powerful story to tell, so that when you get into cabinet, because the politicians don't know everything. I heard somebody was talking last night about Sean, the political leader's ability in accounting and auditing and all of that, but there must be something to audit.
Yes,
and that comes from a business idea, and so. The fact that we can now see in this team, that strong, those strong diversity in the professions, I think augurs well for the party. I don't know if you have a similar opinion.
I think so too, Lauren, and I agree with you. I in fact think that persons have pushed this narrative that PAM is an elitist party to further the agenda of the other parties, because we realize that PAM has such a golden track record that
No pun intended on golden.
that you have to find something to bring down the party. And so you talk about elitism and elites, but in fact what Pam pushes and encourages is that we create opportunities for the people, and that regardless whether you are born of a fisherman or a fisherwoman, you too can be elevated to the highest office in St. Kitts and Nevis once you ensure that you accomplish the things
that need to get
you there. Yes.
But as Addis, it's actually good that you brought up that point, because one of the plans for our PAM government is the People's Dream Fund. So if it is your dream to become the leader of the nation, we would, provide the necessary information and training to get
and
there.
I'm glad Jackie spoke about that, because it's $100 million dream fund, and it's for business owners. So we want to give you a hand up rather than a hand out. You know, that is what the People's Action Movement is about. And so it creates an equal opportunity for whoever you are to be given assistance.
Devoid, hopefully, of politics.
Yes.
To be given assistance to ensure that your dream becomes a reality. And what I like to say, based on my observation of the party, is about making sure that the private sector entrepreneurship is strong, so that you are your own creator of your own dream, your own business, where you can, the sky's the limit. You know, when you're in government and you have government positions, you have a salary scale. Think about being an entrepreneur, when you can make 3 times the amount of a top official in government in 1 month, based on your plans, your ideas, your drive. So we encourage entrepreneurship, for you to create your own wealth based on the opportunities that are presented by the party.
And to be able to produce your own legacies as well, because when you establish your own business and it is successful, this is something that passes on to you. Exactly, exactly.
So, Malika, we're not going to leave you out, you know. So, as a young person, right? As a young person, you go to school, and I'm sure sometimes you and your friends engage in discussions about what is happening in the country. But what would you like to see in terms of a government program to benefit young people? What it is you want to see?
Definitely ensuring that there is youth presence everywhere. Not just, okay, we're going to be finding jobs for people. Let's do this. No, let's have a youth input. So let's say we're trying to find jobs for people 2025. You find a niche group of people within that age group, and what is it that we can do for you?
So you don't want them to tell you what you can do.
Right.
You want to sit at the table and tell them this is what we can do.
Right. Rather than creating jobs and then they are not suitable for that field, and you end up with a set of jobs that nobody can fill.
Right.
That's one. And 2, ensuring that everything is, there's also an opportunity for youths, especially when it comes to housing. It's often times that the elders would get, I know people like to say the youth get too because they live in the households, but there are lots of young families of recent, and I feel as though it's time that we reach out to these youths and say, this is for you. This is something for you, not let me give it to your mother and you're going to benefit too.
So you're talking about specifically about housing. So you're saying give the young person a chance to get his own house, her own house, to start a family.
Right.
Okay. Anybody else wanted to weigh in on that?
I think that's important too, because back in the day, we think about, okay, you give the mother a house or the father a house, and you expect the children to live and tag along there forever.
But in the Caribbean, we do live with the parents long, eh?
Yeah, we do, but
we're not Americans. Actually, somebody told me recently that thing about young people in America moving out the house. They said it was to fuel the capitalism system, the capitalist system. So I don't know, but we don't move out from our parents' house easily around here.
In fact, when you go on and you speak to young people, you find that a lot of young people now want to accomplish and want the opportunities to own their
Yeah.
own homes at a young age.
Yeah.
Because they don't want a home, let's say at the age of 40
And
or
then the payment
45, and then
terms
the payment
become
terms,
more arduous.
and then they have
Yeah.
to pay until, you know, they reach retirement or
Yes.
even old age. They want to
Yeah.
ensure that they...
As
they-
a matter of fact, I don't think that the bank lends you money beyond a certain age.
Yeah, they
It's
don't.
It's not like the US.
And so you find that young people, they want to accomplish a lot of things at a very young age, you know, and so we have to provide the opportunities for young people to do so.
And I like the idea about the jobs now,
Mm-hmm.
policy that was recently shared. Because again, you know, COVID has left us with significant unemployment. I believe that I've heard of stories of people who have been unemployed since COVID and are still struggling to find a job. And added to that are the young people who are leaving school.
Yes.
So you basically have a build-up where people who have become unemployed or underemployed since COVID, and you have 2 years of school leavers added to these numbers.
Right.
And so I think that the Jobs Now program really should probably target those specific groups of people because they have been on the job line for the longest while now.
In fact, and I think one focus of our party should be to create more job opportunities within the market. And I think that the onus would be on the People's Action Movement and the CCM government to ensure that we bring in investors and whatever ideas so we could have the economy boost and that we could have young people who are leaving school to be able to have opportunities to have employment. That's something we have to focus on.
Absolutely. You're listening to The Movement. This is a program that is aired every Tuesday. Today is actually the 9th edition. This program is sponsored by the People's Action Movement. And I'm told that I need to remind people that there's a launch of the manifesto this evening. In fact, it is a joint launch. So the candidates from the Concerned Citizens Movement in Nevis are going to join their PAM counterparts in St. Kitts in constituency number 4 this evening to have that launch of the manifesto, which would be very interesting because it means then that there are joint visions that are going to be shared in that manifesto. So we're inviting everyone, if you can't make it in person, of course, to make sure you log on to a social media platform to hear some of these plans and programs. They've been shared in snippets already all this time, but I'm sure that they're going to be a more general sharing of what the manifesto entails. So we're going to take a break now, and when we come back, I'll probably see if I could get anything out of Azad about what is in that manifesto. See what he knows, what he can share for us ahead of tonight's launch. Yes. We'll be right back after these few words.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are solely those of the participant or caller and do not reflect the views of WinFM 98.9. WinFM reserves the right to disconnect any caller who infringes the law or offends the right of any person. The station will also refuse to take any call from any person who, in WinFM's considered opinion, is likely to expose the station to liability for statements made on the air.
Talking negative about my party, but I'm damn strong. We're damn strong. Go away with your trickery, your money and your bribery, cause I'm damn strong. We're damn strong. Ungratefulness is worse than witchcraft. Come election day and see who gets the last.
Welcome back to The Movement. I have to tell you that the two young ladies have had to leave. They are on their way to prepare for the nomination of their candidate in number 3, Kervin Mylerbox Freeman. And so they have left. And so I'm stuck now with Azad.
Of course, she is happy about that as well.
The deputy chair of the People's Action Movement. And
yes.
we stopped just now to pause to talk about the Manifesto Launch tonight, which is, from all accounts, going to be a major thing. It reminded me of times before when all parties met at one place.
Laban, I must say, I am very excited about this evening. I think that the energies are going to be really high. we are the only, I want to say, political party that has a clear coalition with a division party. There is no ifs, ands, or maybes.
And it is beforehand. It's not after the
Beforehand.
fact.
So you know that it is PAM and CCM. And so you can see the meshing together of the proposed plans for St. Kitts and Nevis. So the voter can say, well, this is PAM and CCM. When they come together, when they are elected on August 5th and go into government in August, that this is what we can expect. And so you're already seeing the gelling, you're already seeing the meshing. And so I am excited because tonight is not just the People's Action Movement, but also the Concerned Citizens Movement together.
Yeah.
So I can't wait, Laverne. And in fact, I'm hoping that as many persons could come out to experience this historic moment.
Yeah, absolutely historic. Because hitherto, in the history of the People's Action Movement and coalition, it really happened after the election.
Yes.
And it's interesting that you made that point because you know, if you sit with somebody on a team, it's always good to know who the team is before you actually. It's like cricket.
Yes.
I mean, if you don't do practice matches as a team, you really don't know, you know, which batting order to put the batsman in. You might put a bowler to bat before and I know Trent knows about cricket. you might put in a bowler to bat before a batsman, and next thing you know, everything falling apart. So there's method to the madness.
And it has been said on the ground, and persons have said this, that there is no political party that's going to get an absolute clear majority when it comes to 6 seats, because you know you need 6 of the 8 in order to form a majority.
Yeah.
And an absolute majority would be even more than that.
Yes.
And so for a simple majority, you need 6 of the 11. And so you have the opportunity now to know exactly what you're going to get. If it is that it's another party, you don't know who that party is going to join with, because there's no party based on our atmosphere that we are seeing clearly that is going to get an absolute majority. And the absolute majority is about 66%. Sometimes in some places it's 3/4. And so you know that the opportunity lies there with the People's Action Movement and CCM, because we have 11 candidates total, and the opportunity to get over that 6, more so than any other movement, more so than any other political party.
Don't
so
mix it. It is only one movement.
Yes, we have one
It's just
movement.
one movement.
Yes.
One movement, one people
movement.
on the guard.
Yes.
No, it's interesting you made that point, and I'm thinking now that maybe at 11:15 we could in fact open the lines. And by the way, listeners and viewers, we are actually standing by. We understand that John L. Powell has been nominated already, and he has planned to call into the show, I guess, to tell us about the experience. So we're actually on standby for that. But in the meantime, Azad and I are going to continue to have this discussion. And the change in landscape of politics in St. Kitts and Nevis has been such that we're seeing now that the electorate is actually warming up to the whole idea of coalition. And perhaps it bodes well for that very thing that you mentioned early on, the whole issue of meritocracy.
Yes.
Because clearly a party is not going to be part of a government and not help the people who they know supported it.
Yes.
But outside of that, though, I think that there is a lot of merit in a coalition government, and I'm sure you can list some for me.
Yes, I think that it gives the opportunity, and then what I like about the coalition government that we have, well, after August 5th, is that you have one party, or one movement, one movement in Nevis, and you have one movement in St. Kitts. You have one movement that would be elected by the people of Nevis, and one movement that would be elected by the people of St. Kitts. And so they can come together, and they can share their goals, their aspirations for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis together, elected by... So Nevisians have a chance to elect a government. Kittitians have a chance to elect a government. Not like any other party where, let's say, I don't want those Labour parties where, the persons only in St. Kitts elected them. You understand? And so they have to now govern between St. Kitts and Nevis. We have the best chance for Nevisians and Kittitians to elect a whole government that represents them.
Yeah. But I think the issue of the two salaries and so on are not going to go away. But I understand that it is something that is not wrong. It's not wrong in principle or otherwise.
Well, as you know, we are a country that is governed by laws and regulations, and so although persons might have their own beliefs
and feelings
based on what the law is, there's nothing preventing an individual from that unless the law is changed to reflect. Then the law is what it is.
Truly. There was I don't know, you are the lawyer and perhaps you are more au fait with things legal than I am. But I saw something the other day about a case of treating in Dominica. Now, what is treating? And do we sometimes mix up treating and cheating?
Well, I am aware of it. In fact, the person who would have led that on the team, the legal team, she and I, when I was at UE at the
same time.
Yeah, yes. So it's interesting to see your former colleagues, your former classmates, or whatever, on these cases. And of course, that is a matter that is very pertinent, and it falls under the same category of giving out things for persons to elect you. And these are things that are important. And we recognize that person boldly in St. Kitts and Nevis are saying, well, what you going to give me for my vote? What you got to offer? We want money. These are things that we have not really, what I want to say, these are things that are based on the law that are not encouraged, but it's not something that we have radically enforced. But
doesn't the politician have a duty to say that, the law doesn't permit me to do this?
Yeah, and I mean, but the thing about it, I guess, with the politician, it's that the law is there, and then persons on the other side feel as though they sometimes pressured.
Yeah.
But because we talk about politicians giving out things, but oftentimes it's the constituents too that pressure the politicians too, by saying, on the flip side, by saying, well,
if you don't give me, I wouldn't vote for you, or you would lose 10 votes in my house?
Yes, and I think it's a conversation that needs to be had.
But that too is a threat?
Yes, because persons think that sometimes it's just the politicians coming with money, but sometimes persons in households are threatening the politicians, saying that if you don't come or do this or do that, it's 10 votes in my house. It's 7 votes in my house. It's 20 votes.
You have a call? Good morning. Welcome to the movement. Hi, good morning, Jonelle.
Morning, Laverne. Morning to all the listeners.
Good morning. How did it go this morning? You have now been officially nominated for constituency number 2.
It went fantastically. The Central Vastia crowd really came out and showed their support. And I am nominated and well on the way to being re-elected as representative for this constituency. I got the people's back, and I know they have mine.
Bravo to you. So this is it now. This is the real deal now.
Well, yeah, this is the real deal now. This is where the people make up their minds as to what their destiny will be for the next 5 years. I'm very confident that I not only have the best plan, but I've been able to articulate to them exactly how we're going to execute this plan together. Because it's all about them. It's all about the people. It's all about making Central Basque a better place for the constituents to live and creating those opportunities for them to live even more comfortably than they have before.
Absolutely. And talking about plans, I mean, you have put your plans on paper in something called a manifesto, which would be launched tonight. How excited are you about that?
I'm really excited. Again, it's about plans, it's about issues. It's not about offering the people the minimum. It's about showing them how high they can soar and how much they can achieve. And that is what PAM is all about. It's not about giving people fish. That's how you keep poor people poor. We are about teaching people how to fish so that they can sustain and feed themselves and their families long term. And, that is the prosperity that the People's Action Movement and the Concerned Citizens Movement is going to bring on their government. So the next Prime Minister, the Honorable Sean Kenneth Richards.
So what can we look forward to tonight at the Manifesto Launch?
You can look forward to seeing the entire PAM CCM slate in person on the platform. We're going to be presenting our manifesto, presenting the issues. We're going to be presenting proposals for the advancement of not just the young, but the elderly. We have something for everybody. And again, it's not about giving handouts, it's about giving hand ups. So we're going to talk about over 5,000 jobs that we're going to make available through our Jobs Now program. We're going to talk about the $100 million Dream Fund, through which the dreams will be made true for all young entrepreneurs, entertainers, small business people, farmers. We're going to talk about our housing solution program, where over 3,000 housing solutions will be made available to the citizens that think it's a need. We're going to talk about education, sports, tourism. We can talk about diversifying our economy to ensure that job opportunities will be made available. Jobs for who don't have jobs, and better jobs for those who are underemployed. That is what the People's Action Movement and the Concerned Citizens Movement is bringing to the people of this country.
I've gotten excited just from hearing that long list alone. I hope that people...
And that's just part of it.
Can you imagine? It sounds like it would be a long, long night.
Actually, we're not going to make it too long, but we're going to make it exciting and interesting. We're going to drop all the major points, and then persons will be able to access the full manifesto electronically and go through it. But at the end of the day, we know we are the only option. We are the best choice in terms of hope for this country, and I can't wait for August 5th to come, when everybody in Central is going to vote JP2, when everybody across the Federation will vote for the PAM and CCM candidate, and we have a new government come August 6th with Sean Richards as Prime Minister.
Well, thank you so much, Jonel. You sound excited, to tell you the truth.
I am so excited.
You sound in lively spirit.
So excited.
We wish you well, as we do all of the other candidates of the People's Action Movement, and we trust that it would be a fair contest, and at the end of the day, the best candidate would win.
Thank you, and we will ensure that it is. We do have some concerns, as you may have seen. I have written to the Supervisor of Elections, copying the Electoral Commission on a particular issue in relation to the voters list in Central Bastille, where a revised list for the month of May has been published, although we still have outstanding objection hearings. This goes against the law. We had the case of Mark Brantley back in 2012, where the election of Henry Daniel was overturned, and Mark Brantley was eventually declared winner in a by-election because this was one of the main issues. I am not going to allow that to happen to me in Central Bastille. All I want is a fair general election, and so we will deal with that issue. But one thing is for sure: come the 6th of August, Jonel Powell, JP2, will be re-elected as a parliamentary representative for constituency number 2, and we will continue the good work that we've started over the last 2 years.
Well, thank you for that. Are you aware of any other of your colleague candidates who have already been nominated this morning?
At this point, all that I know about is Central Bastille. I understand that Milo is next, so we're going to gather our team and we're going to go and support him. And I'll support all of my colleagues, because this is a team. It's all about teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing some of your excitement with us. It certainly has taken up the excitement on this show a couple notches. And we wish you all the best from here.
Thank you. Vote JP2.
Thank you, Jonel. And Laverne, based on Jonel's comments, I too am excited. You could hear, as you said, the excitement in his voice and the confidence as well as the candidate that will be re-elected to serve the people of constituency number 2. In fact, as he spoke about the CCM PAM administration stepping into office, I could only think about good things for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Okay. And we just want to, we may as well open up the line a little bit.
Yes.
So we want to let listeners know, listeners and viewers know that the numbers, if you're calling from overseas, are 718-285-6984, or 305-921-4619. Of course, if you're calling locally, you would use the prefix 466-762 or 662-0989. Your input is welcome on this show as ever. So we certainly expect to hear from you over the course of the next maybe 40 minutes. So if we could go back to our conversation, Mr. Gums, about this whole issue of treating and cheating that you started to explain to us.
Yes. And I must say that persons, I think too, if you look at it, we will have seen somebody from one of the candidates from the Labour Party try to make that attempt during the last election, after the last election, when it comes to bribery and those kind of things. Of course, it is a concern for any political party. And I think that it's something perhaps in the future that we really have to look at, but it would take candidates, bold candidates, to come forward and to really enforce the law at its full length. I want to also say to persons too that there are other nominations that should be going on at this point in time.
We have a call.
Yes.
Let's pause to take it. Good morning. Welcome to the movement.
Good morning, movement. How are you?
Well,
Laverne is fine, thank you.
as had as well.
Okay, great. I've been listening avidly and attentively to your program. As you may have noticed, I'm calling from overseas.
Not really, but thank you for alerting us to that fact.
My name is Ken Crossley.
Yes.
Hi, Ken.
And yeah, this is Ken Laverne.
Hi.
Okay. It has gone viral worldwide, the happenings that's going on in St. Kitts and Nevis. And there's so many issues that come to mind just off the bat that there's absolutely no reckoning with all of them in this one phone call. What I would like to say, though, is this. Based on everything that we have seen and heard in the past couple of years, there must be a feeling, even among yourselves in the station, a feeling of what is to come, what is going to happen next as far as politics go in St. Kitts and Nevis. We've seen the changes over the years. We've seen and lived through corruption, to politicians who don't want to give up seats, even when the time has come to move on, to parties not having a clear way of moving aside and letting younger blood take hold. How do both of you, as you're hosting this program, how do both of you see this new trend in St. Kitts and Nevis as far as politics go? Does it feel like they're having more of the old gas still, or is there fresh, new, young blood and new ideas taking place? That is what I would like to hear your opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Do we have any more callers?
Thank you.
So Azad, I guess he's saying that he wants to see, I guess, continuity in some of the political parties. He called them the old guard. He wants the old guard to move off the ground and look at continuity. Is that something that you as deputy chair of the party have started to discuss already?
Yes. In fact, there are a number of young persons within the party who are anxious and willing to put themselves forward. In fact, I want to say that we had several young persons fill in the application to be candidates.
This time around?
And so that goes to show that young people are in fact interested, and young people are there within the People's Action Movement, that whatever the outcome, we have persons who would be able to fill the various vacancies within the constituency. I also want to say this, that if you look at the candidates, you realize we have a number of new candidates. I think only 3 candidates are the ones that are returning from the last election. That would be Sean Richards, that would be Lindsey Grant, and that would be Jonelle Powell.
There's a call.
And in
Just
fact,
hold
we
that
had
thought.
5 new ones.
Right, hold that thought for a moment. Although Chesley is not totally new.
Yes, that's true.
Good morning. Welcome to the movement.
Hi, good morning to the movement, man.
Good morning.
I'm now nowhere near to where any nomination is being held, but I feel so good and strong in my spirit that I'm sharing the sentiment with you all there. I want to wish all the PAM candidates, all the CCM candidates. I want to wish them well. And I'm not saying luck, but to wish them well. I want them to all be successful. I want to make a quick comment. Peter Wickham does not know our political history and development of political parties in St. Kitts. The foolish statement he made about that PAM never had the vision of the people. He forgot that PAM and NRP started at a 3-2 situation in 1980, and PAM in particular grew from strength to strength. And PAM and NRP held power for 15 years. So he need to learn the aspect of the development of the People's Action Movement. The real turning point in our human development came from that period, 1980, until somebody else went in and mashed it up. And all the money was there. And so he need to learn that. I remember John Major was trailing points behind the Labour Party in England a few years ago. Up to the morning, the election, he was trailing. But Major said he was not daunted because he knew what was happening. By the time the results coming out, Major gone ahead and won, overwhelmingly because he never had to join anybody to form a government. So you see, polls always have issues.
Yeah.
And then this man now jump on the bandwagon, and he words and terms he is using. He using them as to call down PAM and praising up. I mean, you are educated people, not like me. I ain't up there.
You
But
sound
I
like you're up there. No, don't grade yourself at all.
Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know if he have gotten paid to say what he said by the other people, but I know for sure. But he still went on to say that to get that big swing for PLP to win outright, you have to have a lot of resources, and you don't know if that will ever happen. So he biting his tongue at the same time. But anyway, once again, don't let me say too long. This program is a very educational program, and Azad,
Yes, sir.
I want you, after election, you need to, a group of you, you are a lawyer, so to impress on the young people about how important a vote is. And you could give them the historical perspective from maybe around the world, but most of Commonwealth countries.
You know that
Because when South Africa got the vote majority, people travel for days. Because South Africa is a country of 400,000 square miles.
yes.
So people travel for days and weeks to get to go where the polling station is, just to make that vital X
Right.
where we had it since 1952.
52.
You know,
And
caller.
people playing around with all of this
You're right.
good thing in our favor. So that need to be an exercise.
Yes, caller. In fact,
Anyway.
I think that's an excellent point.
Thank you so much, caller. That was a fantastic
you know me,
input.
you know me, you're supposed to know me. That one know me too.
Yes.
Your voice does sound familiar.
Yes, your voice sounds very
I was
familiar to me too as well.
Singing at Christmas time.
You sing at
I
Christmas?
call no name.
Okay. Well,
Caroline, Pam Group Caroline.
okay. I'm gonna. Yeah. Okay. I got you now.
Yeah.
Got you now.
All right.
Got you now.
That know me.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you
You
for
all
that
have a
brilliant
good day.
input. You do too. Thank
I
you.
love what you're all doing.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Love what you're all doing.
Thank
Keep it up,
you.
man. Good.
Thank you. There's another call. Good morning. Welcome to the movement.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a question. Oh, may I say good morning to your guests and listeners as well. I have a question. I noticed, because in studying the political atmosphere and different things that are going on, that right after the last election, there was a lot of activities in constituency 4. I'm like, what's wrong with these people? Elections are over, but here you're having so many things done. And even within PAM, There were a lot of things done, you know, keeping constituents engaged. I would like you to tell me what are some of the things that you've done earlier, Clark, in constituency 4, and you yourself, what are some of your involvement? What are some activities that your rep in number 4 would have done community-wise, meetings held? I heard Sean Richards saying that when he passed, going to Standing Point, you all have cars lined up because they're having meetings. So what are some of the things that you have done to keep your community engaged? Some of the things the representative has done in number 4. I mean, sometimes I look at it as that's kind of a model for others in any political party, in fact. And I would like to also tell me what your youth rally would be like, and what are some of the plans you have for the youth. You might have mentioned them already, but I had just tuned in. If you can just briefly go over that, I'll appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for your call, ma'am. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
But let's just we have two. Oh, there's another call. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the movement.
Good day, Laverne.
Good morning, Ira.
Morning. You still have your guest?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Who's this, Azad?
Yes, Ira.
Okay, right. Just by way of a little history. Actually, it's all well and good to go down memory lane, but the truth is all parties have contributed to the development of our country. And I would say, in comparison, that the Labour Party has contributed the most, okay? But the election is not about that, okay? One thing you did mention, or somebody mentioned and tried to reject, is the elitist, the idea that PAM is elitist. I don't know if Levin would probably remember, but what started PAM was when they had a march for electricity. And I still remember the slogans. We won't pay for floor space. We'll pay for what we burn. Okay? And that is because the floor space really favored people with big houses. Most times then people just had 1 or 2 room houses. Not 1 or 2 bedrooms, 1 or 2 room houses. Mm-hmm. And it still can't for the life of me understand why anybody would, in those days, would join, except of course for the elitists who had larger houses, would gravitate towards PAM. But like I said, this is not about that. Mm-hmm. We are in a particular situation right now where our country is at a turning point. We are here because of what happened with the unity arrangement. PAM has decided to combine with CCM. I think that coalitions have left a bad taste in people's mouths right now because we see what can happen, all right? And we recall that the Prime Minister himself said that the PAM leader, Sean Richards, had recommended the firing of the CCM leader. In other words,
but that almost sounds like hearsay in court.
Still there.
That almost sounds like hearsay evidence in court.
But the Prime Minister said it, and Sean Richards have not denied it. You see? So what I'm saying is, we can do without those kind of coalitions. I would have much preferred if the parties had gone into the elections and then, based on the results, decide on what's the best way forward for the country. Okay, something like what the NRP leader has said, which is basically we're gonna see. We're not joining any pre-election alliances. We'll wait and see what happens after, and the party will take. The Vision Party will take into account what the St. Kitts people decide. I think that's principle, okay? And so I am hoping, though, that out of this election cycle, we end up with a clear mandate for somebody so that we don't get involved in these coalition-type arrangements anytime. Well, at least give us a five-year break. And remember, too, that a lot of what precipitated this was that a lot of constitutional issues were kicked down the road. We know for sure what Mr. Brantley wants. Okay, he has expressed that time and time again. Okay, he's very adamant that Nevis should get its fair share. What that is has still to be determined. And in a coalition-type arrangement, who is going to speak for St. Kitts? We know who's going to speak for Nevis, but who's going to speak for St. Kitts in that kind of arrangement? That is going to be problematic.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess you're saying that the party that you're supporting is not in favor of coalition. But you know what? At the end of the day, the people always decide, and the voice of the people is the voice of God.
You know that.
Pardon me?
Right? I don't speak for any party.
Well, I thought so. I must be gravely mistaken.
I do not speak for any party.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gravely mistaken.
Right.
I'm sorry.
And I'm saying, all I want is a clear mandate this time, okay, so that we don't end up in the same position 2 years down the road and having to go back to the polls.
The people will decide, Mr. McMahon. Thank you so much for your call. Thank you so much. We always appreciate your input here because we entertain all views. So thank you so much for your call.
Laverne, could I just address some of the things that Mr. McMahon would have said? I'm going to start with him first. He mentioned about the square footage and being able to vote based on square footage and property. But he has to understand.
No, he was talking about the match that started, Pam. Was about floor space and electricity. That was the match that gave impetus and gave birth to the People's Action Movement.
Okay, then. Well, one thing he's saying too about the clear mandate, I think that we have presented a clear mandate in terms of what we want to accomplish as a people for a CCM PAM government. And I think that certainty is very important because to go into an election and then afterwards you join up with persons just because of the fact that you want to reach number 6.
But I think what he's also downplaying is the fact that there were 3 parties in a relationship.
Yes.
Only one fell out. Only one from the 3 is not is not there. And in effect, those other 2 were very familiar with each other before.
Yes.
And so this is not going to be a novel relationship as such, right? And so I think there's a constant downplaying of that part of it. So that is not, it's not starting all over again.
And then he's asking about who's going to represent St. Kitts. Of course, we have our Prime Minister who would be the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Well, isn't that what the Constitution says?
Exactly.
But there's always that kind of downplaying because, it stirs up division in people and all of that. But at the end of the day, I like to say the people will decide. The people thought that there was merit in a coalition in 2015. And that happened. And there's really, I am not a political pollster. I'm not a political anything. But I can see that there's an appetite.
Yes.
The people have an appetite for oneness. We are too divided. And I think the people are saying by their vote, well, if I have an opportunity to have a party that I vote for in government, at least there's somebody to look out for me. And I don't know if fear is stirring this, but I think that people are tired. People are fearful of this victimization. It has to stop. We live on a 65 square mile island. The resources are enough to share among us. And he says that Nevis is talking about fair share. We should all talk about fair share. Because we are all citizens of this country.
Exactly.
And all of us are entitled to a fair share. And so I don't understand why people think that they ought to downplay a coalition. There's an appetite for it. People are tired. People are vexed. about this constant division, this constant isolation when your party is not in power.
And you have said it, Laverne. In 2015, people voted for a coalition government. In 2020, they voted for a coalition government.
Interestingly, you heard what he just said, that give it a 5-year break. I mean, why would you break something that can work?
Exactly,
that is working.
and has been working.
Exactly.
In fact, when you talk about the unity coalition, as you have rightfully said, it was based on 3 parties.
Mm-hmm.
Only one party no longer remains there.
Exactly.
And so the majority of the partners are there.
And it means that the majority of their constituents are basically still in favor of a coalition.
Exactly. And you realize in 2015, CCM got 2, PAM got 4, that's 6.
And
in
by the following election,
PAM got 4, CCM got 3, so there was an increase.
That's why I said there's an appetite for coalition. And so I don't understand why people like him, keep on stirring this pot of division. And I hopefully I am praying that we don't return to a state where people think that they can just run roughshod over people because you're not part of us. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the movement.
Good morning, Laverne, and good morning to Mr. Cesar Douglas. I think Mr. Douglas is doing a wonderful job.
Thank you,
I
sir.
think you're not only a future leader for the People's Action Movement, but a future leader for this country.
Thank you, sir.
I don't think Honorable Sean Richard have to respond to anything that Dr. Harris would have said that Sean said. Sean would have said things that Dr. Harris himself asked him to do, and as a matter of fact, of victimizing people. And Dr. Harris has not responded to that.
That's a fact.
He called it the person's name. And as a matter of fact, I heard Chesley Hamilton refer to one of those incidents, And as far as the joining up with Nevis is concerned, with CCM to be exact, the reason why the other parties are having a problem with that, because when it comes to mandate, PAM has the easiest part of winning this election. And that is the problem that you all, I know, of course, you guys might realize. PAM has the easiest part to winning this election.
What do you mean by that,
one
sir?
Of those, because, if we know most likely that Mark Brantley, the partner of PAM in Nevis, is going to have a landslide. They're not going to take those 3 seats from CCM. And if it takes 6 to form the government, tell me where PAM is going to lose all of the 4 seats that they have there.
Okay, gotcha.
And when you map it out, Labour is not going to win 6 seats. The days are gone for any one political party to win any 6 seats in St. Kitts.
The caller before you didn't understand that.
No. And so, that is, they're living in their own fairy tale world. See, Labour going to win all 6 and all 8 and all that nonsense. Those days are gone. Why Dr. Douglas had to be always in Old Road, cheating Lindsey Grant? That seat has always been a PAM stronghold. Conservative beat him more about 4 times there. And so when you look at it, Sandy Point is not going to go anywhere. They have a problem. And that is the problem they have. This election is PAM to win. Mr. Gums, you're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. There's another caller. There are more callers now than when the candidates are on. Good morning. Welcome to the movement. Hello. Hello, hello.
I think we lost that caller. Laverne, let me just say something about the match as well. If I'm not incorrect, the match was impetus for the People's Action Movement based on the fact that at that time, persons were charged not based on the quantity of electricity that they use, but the size of their homes. And so...
There's a call. Good morning. Welcome to the movement.
Hi.
Hello.
Yes, I had to call back.
Mm-hmm.
Morning.
I'm going to be very brief.
Okay.
No, that caller prior to the last one, he set in this kind of agenda where his background is division and petition, You got to join background.
As is most of us.
Is, one side is Nivision, one side is Kitisha. But he always seemed to be up in arms against the Nivision.
Yes.
He is compelled to say what he's saying because he just peddling the philosophy of the Labour Party. And they
He says otherwise. He says no. He says he's not.
No, don't bother. I know him. I know him personally. Don't bother with him. And I've been listening to him for years now. So, and who know him would say the same thing. No. They don't want to look back and see the achievements of PAM from 1980 onwards. PAM was juggled out. All kind of nasty things went on during the election. Mr. Grant should have been in there 2 times before when he went in because they brought people from St. Paul's, Sadler's, and even around large area to vote. And when the names were objected to, when the next publication come out, they were not there. But the following one, they come out. And I know people from Lodge. I know them who voted about 3 places in one day. I know a few from St. Paul. Not only me alone know them. I don't know what went wrong, but the electoral office people those days, they used to like to do their work. So, cheating, that's what used to kill Mr. Grant. I know some of the people, I from a village. Well, some people know my voice, but I ain't saying it for now. But when I see the voters list and I see names, I mean, I born here, live here, grow up here. I ain't went nowhere except for holidays. I'm a lover of St. Kitts and Nevis. I just in love with my country.
Me too.
And the names them I see, even some Spanish names and Indian names, they never live nowhere around here.
Yeah.
Yet they were not taken off the list, even they were objected to. But God in the midst, last election, a lot of them come off and see how Grant suit and won by over 350 something votes.
Yes.
Well, I know I would have seen some shifts from people who, but I want to tell PAM people, do not be afraid, don't get frightened. We're standing good because some of the people who shifted a labor shift to labor.
Okay.
And so forth. So don't be afraid. Just go out. I can urge you all to go out that day. If you are playing lackadaisical, go out when the day comes. Take a good sleep the day before. And you go out early and go and vote for the People's Action Movement in St. Kitts. And the people in Nevis who may be listening to me, vote for CCM. That's the team.
Thank you,
That's the
caller.
last call for now.
Thank you. Thank you, caller. We have a couple of things on the table still.
Yes.
I just wanted to throw in my hip knee. If you were born in the 60s and 70s, you'd understand what hip knee means.
Yeah, but I heard my grandmother call that word so many times.
just a second. We have another caller. Good morning. Welcome to the movement.
Yes, again, just a quick observation. Mention was made of the good governance agenda. The PAM has now belatedly, or I shouldn't say belatedly, because they said they were for it before, but yet did nothing to make sure it was implemented. But that is not going to square well.
I can't let you say those things because the People's Action Movement would have brought the legislation in Parliament before the 2020 election.
Is it operationalized though?
It was not, because at the point in time, especially when looking at some of the things like the term limits for Prime Minister, we didn't have the absolute majority. You understand? And you made mention about a number of things
You
about
know fully
the
well.
party being elitist.
The reason why, so why would they bring it now again as the agenda? I asked Premier Brantley before, how come every one of you inside here in cabinet promised this in 2015 and you all sat on it and did virtually nothing to bring it? And now
I wonder if you ever questioned the government before 2015 about that, because this has been something that has been talked about for a long time.
What is the relevance of that?
Well, I'm just because sometime in fairness we put pressure to bear on somebody who has at least set the groundwork. when
But
there
they're
were
the
people.
ones who have the power.
But if you're in government, you always have the power. But we had a situation a few years ago when they were all eight. They were all eight candidates for one party in parliament.
What does that have to do with now, Laverne?
No. But we must talk, and we must balance our opinion with fairness, right? And at least I'm saying at least something has started. We will hold the electorate, including you. We will hold their feet to the fire to make sure that whoever. Because the next thing you might say is that, oh, well, if a party goes and they didn't start the conversation, it wasn't them who started the conversation, so it may not be priority for them. We can keep shifting the narrative. We can keep shifting the narrative.
That's the whole point, and that's why I say the people who have the power to change it is the one who should be held accountable.
And we're going to hold them accountable, including you. Me and you would hold them accountable, Mr. McMahon.
But remember, if these things are really in place, a number of the candidates of the People's Action Movement would be nowhere near public office. So just remember that, and think about that when you think that they're going to make any significant change to
well, you know what?
Integrity in public life.
We might be surprised.
Freedom of information.
We might be surprised it may touch more than the candidates of the People's Action Movement. We may be surprised.
That's fine.
But who knows?
That's fine.
And I agree with you. If it needs to be done, it needs to be done. But we're looking at the clock. We still have a number of issues that callers pointed out to us that have not been addressed. We thank you so much for your input. Always valuable. We always appreciate it. Thank you so much. So there's a caller who spoke about youth participation in elections. There's also somebody who wanted you to talk about the continuous engagement of activities in number 4. And I also wanted to add my HIPME to the first caller, who was basically asking about continuity in political parties. And for me, I would say, because I think he also wanted me to weigh, and I would say that I'm very mindful that we should give candidates enough preparation time to prepare for public office. Public office is a serious thing. And a candidate really can't get ready over 4 or 5 weeks. You know, we have to look at holistic training of a potential candidate in things like emotional intelligence, interview skills, presentation and oratorical skills, image management, maybe even things like dining etiquette, because you're going to be invited to events and all of that. So I really would like to see, for the purpose of that caller who asked me to weigh in on this, I would like to see more thought given by parties across the board to allow its candidates to fully prepare themselves for public office. And I'll allow you to talk about the youth participation in elections and about the activities, the continuous engagement activities in number 4 that the caller asked you about.
Yes, no problem, Laverne. Thanks for the opportunity. In fact, I think that young people should be educated or sensitized on the importance of their vote. In fact, I'm glad for the caller to make that suggestion, because it's something that I could actually run within the schools and communities. I am thinking of different projects to engage young people. And
but people think that maybe the teaching of civics should come back to school as well.
And in fact, even outside the school environment, even have things where persons can engage and have conversation to persons who might not even traditionally, but I guess, yes, I agree, that should be included in the schools as well. We talk about number 4. I remember after the last election when the Honorable Lindsey Grant would have won by, well, he won by 351 votes. Immediately after that, based on the group that we had, he was like, we need to have an executive. In fact, I think number 4 was one of the constituencies, the first constituencies to elect an executive. I know based on conversation, I would have been part of the national executive at that point in time as the assistant general secretary. And he, as you know, me and a number of persons would have worked with him in the constituency for the election. And he was like, even though you have that position, I think you should also join the team, the executive, and put yourself up for a position in the executive. After that was done, I was elected the chairman of the People's Action Movement in constituency number 4. We had deputy chairperson, we had a treasurer, we have a secretary, we have a PRO, we have a women's group chair, we have a youth cheer. And so that gave us the opportunity to be very vibrant within our constituency. So when persons talk about winning an election and not going back to the people, in fact, the executive of FUA, and then we saw persons within various constituencies. Constituency 5 had the election, constituency 2 had the election. So we had election from various constituencies. We had a big thing with constituency number 1, where we had over 200 people voting for a local constituency executive. They had more persons, even more than caucus, you know? So that garnered that support. And so you had constituencies from the People's Action Movement very active. Pam was very active after the last general election. If you are to talk specifically as it relates to constituency number 4, we had Lindsey Grant with the breakfast program. We had the HAP program that is now on the stream. We had national, constituency health walks. We had youth meetup. We had the constituency meetings, and we had cleanup just in constituency 4. We didn't start doing things just because of an election. And I think people have to be objective, they have to be honest, and they have to properly assess the situation, because a lot of work have been done in the various constituencies, including number 4.
But I think the young lady was actually, I find that she was actually complimentary. She was saying that...
yes, she was, but I'm talking generally.
Yeah, because she actually said that it's something that perhaps could be replicated across constituencies.
Yes. I'm not talking about the lady, because she was actually complimentary. I'm talking about the general feelings that persons
nothing is done after election.
Nothing is done after election. Yeah, that.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at the clock and it's 12 o'clock straight up. And I'll give you a couple seconds to wind up, and then I would just bring the program to an end.
Yes, I want to thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to be here. It's always a pleasure to be talking about the People's Action Movement and the things that the People's Action Movement has done and is going to do in the near future. I want to encourage all persons to go out and support your candidates. I want you to vote for the People's Action Movement candidate in the various constituencies that we have. If I am trying to go on memory, there is a nomination that is supposed to go on now. At 12 with constituency number 3. We have a nomination with 3. We should have had constituency number 8 already nominated, the candidate for constituency number 8, and the candidate for constituency number 7, Chesley Hamilton and Lincoln David. We have at 2 o'clock in constituency number 4, the Honorable Lindsey Grant. We have at I think 2 o'clock as well, because I'm going back on my memory, because I'm trying to find the information. But we have Natasha Gray, who should be nominated shortly as well. And then we have our political leader, who should be nominated at 3:30. And we have Troy Fleming. Yes, because Troy Liebert is from Nevis.
Your brain is
yes. And so Troy Flanders for constituency number 6 should also be nominated this afternoon. And so I want to encourage persons to look out for the candidates of the People's Action Movement and to ensure that they give the candidates their full support, because it is one movement going into this election, hoping to be the next government of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Thank you very much, Azad, for sitting with me for the full 2 hours. And to remind our listeners, our viewers, that there is the Manifesto Launch this evening in constituency number 4. At that launch, the candidates of the Concerned Citizens Movement of Nevis would also be present, and they would join their 8 colleague counterparts in the People's Action Movement for that joint launch of the manifesto this evening. It promises, like Jonel just shared with you, to be exciting. I think it's going to be interspersed with a rally type of atmosphere, perhaps performances and all of that. So we want you to come and join in the momentum.
It's going to be fun.
And obviously the whole intention is afterwards to lend your support to all the candidates of the People's Action Movement and the Concerned Citizens Movement. That's a wrap for today. Next week, hopefully, would be our final show, because it would be the final actually it's a holiday. The final Tuesday before the elections. But we would see if you will be able to join us then. Thank you so much again for your support of this show, and those who call in, those who perhaps even follow on the social platforms and share their their messages there. We'll see you again next Tuesday, God willing. And so we wish you all the best for today and the balance of the week. Goodbye.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are solely those of the participant or caller and do not reflect the views of WinFM 98.9. WinFM reserves the right to disconnect any caller who infringes the law or offends the right of any person. The station will also refuse to take any call from any person who, in WinFM's considered opinion, is likely to expose